And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode from Debates. I am your host, Dibo. And shoot, man, welcome back. Hope you all having a great day. Episode. I really gotta get keeping track of these episode numbers, but we are past episode 80. At least I know that. Once again, I hope you all having a pretty good day. Very good day so far, actually. Couple days removed from the Super Bowl. Hope I had a fun time watching that. Well, tried to because the game was pretty bad. One of the worst of all time. Can't lie. Unfortunately, my team, Kansas City Chiefs, were on the losing side of said Super Bowl. So, yeah, we're still gonna talk about that. Quick rundown of the agenda for today's episode, since we're on that timing. Like I said before, we are going to do a recap of the Super Bowl, give my thoughts about it. Next segment, keeping in the NFL, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers not being with the Jets heading to the 2025 season. He was recently released by the Jets this morning. And for the next two segments, we are going to switch gears to the NBA. We're going to talk a little bit about All-Star Weekend and a new event that they should implement to bring in more fan attention towards All-Star Weekend. And lastly, I have my three teams in the NBA that need to panic heading to the All-Star break. So it's going to be a lot of fun today. Hope y'all enjoy it. Since you all are here, make sure to drop a like and a comment in the comment section down below. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow our other social media platforms, IG and TikTok, both with the handle @LunchNDebates. And yeah, man, let's get into it. So, let's start off with Super Bowl 59 being played in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans. Yeah, why not start with the Chiefs first? Because that's my team, obviously. And just get that out the way. Man. No, I wasn't surprised that the Eagles won. Obviously, they're a very talented team. Despite me picking us to win it, to three-peat this past Sunday. The Eagles were a very talented team, very well coached. Did a phenomenal job building this team throughout all three phases of the ball. Coaching staff's phenomenal too as well. So I knew we had a lot to handle coming into Sunday's game. The thing I'm just so irritated about was, one, we got our asses kicked on the national stage. The most viewed Super Bowl of all time, which that isn't fun to see your team get blown out. And to see your team get shit on all throughout social media, which in some ways, we did kind of deserve it. I'm not going to lie, for multiple reasons, but I'm not going to get into that. It's just throughout the game, just the lack of proper game planning, especially offensively, and just the sheer lack of effort on offense. That just broke my heart, man. Players giving up. Travis, he didn't put in his best effort. A lot of drop balls. Obviously, the D-Hop drop ball during the 2-minute warning off third down 24. Had a huge mountain to climb up. If he caught that D-Hop, he would have ran up the field for a ton of yardage. Dropped the ball, had to punt. That put us in even a deeper hole. Just mistakes like that. The O-line was complete crap. Just getting blown by the Eagles D-line, which they didn't blitz not once throughout all four quarters of that game. Which, seeing that live, witnessing Mahomes getting sacked over and over and over again, all the pressures coming in from that Eagles D-line, like from Jalen Carter, like from Josh Sweat, all had a phenomenal game. I just noticed that Fangio, the Eagles defensive coordinator, he didn't send any blitzes. They were getting home with four guys, a 4-man front. And for us, why weren't we able to adjust? Why weren't we able to try any changes? We just kept it the same. Had Joe Tooney lined up at left tackle, Mike Caliendo at left guard, and obviously the other three in our own line: Creed Humphrey center, Trey Smith right guard, Jawan Taylor right tackle. Why didn't we change anything with our own line when we were getting blown up over and over and over again, especially on the left hand side? We couldn't do anything on the left hand side. Nothing. We couldn't run the ball. We barely tried to run the ball. But when we did, it was relatively nothing. Negative plays over and over and over again. So for Andy Reid, Matt Nagy, ROC, why didn't we make a change? Why didn't we at least try to put in DJ Humphries at left tackle? Why did we and move Joe Tooney back to his natural position at left guard? We could have played Kingsley Suliamada at left tackle. I know he had a very poor season, but at least try something. It is the biggest game of the year. I would rather have us die swinging for the fences, trying new things to prevent the lead from blowing up even more, to have the offense starting to click, than just keep doing the same thing with no results. Negative results, actually. It just blew my mind. It really blew my mind. Like I said before, the run game was really poor. We need a running back badly. I respect Kareem Hunt for the job he did coming in early in the year when Pacheco got out long term with his injury, and putting in a serviceable job at the running back position. And I respect Pacheco for what he did during the Super Bowl run against Philly when we beat them in Arizona. But we have to upgrade running back. We need to upgrade the running back position next year. Have to. You need to be explosive out the backfield. And when you're going up against a talented front seven like Philly, with a very talented secondary as well, with receivers that can consistently separate, especially without Rashee Rice, him being out for the rest of the year, that was a huge factor in us not getting any big plays developing in the passing game. You need a secondary option outside the backfield, a guy that can consistently open up the passing game with his rushing ability, but also with him having a developed route tree. And with Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, that just puts us at a massive disadvantage. Very massive disadvantage. So we really need to address the running back position next year in the draft, offseason in general. It was frustrating to watch. Defensively, there's only so much you can do being put on the field over and over and over again. Like during the game, me and my dad were just discussing that the defense just kept going back on the field over and over and over because the offense, it was a straight 3-and-out, 4-play drive, turnover inside your own 20-yard line. Mahomes throwing the pick to Zach Bond in a 2-minute warning. Mahomes throwing the pick to Cooper DeJean, which was a horrendous read. Horrendous read. I did not know where he was passing that ball to. It was completely draped with the Eagles defenders. DeJean picked that off easily, ran it back for the pick six. The defense, although they let up some big plays, especially early, the defense did a formidable job. My main issue, again, was the offense. The offense, they weren't prepared at all. Our lack of speed, explosiveness in our wide receiver positions, in the running back position, they showed up badly. Really, really bad. They ran straight man Philly. Straight man Philly felt like for the majority of the game. And our receivers could not get open at all, except for Xavier Worthy on a few plays. It was just bad. It was horrendous. And with the Chiefs moving forward, do I think the dynasty's over? No. Despite Kelsey potentially considering a retirement. The dynasty's still not over. As long as we have 15 still playing on the field, still out there, as long as Spag's still on the team, as long as Andy Reid's our head coach, as long as we have Chris Jones still on the field, we have a chance. We have an absolute chance. They've been counting us out this whole run, especially these past 2 years, and we've answered the call over and over and over, time after time again. And especially when you factor in the AFC, you look at us compared to the other top teams in that conference, like Baltimore, like Buffalo. We have the coaching advantage and the physicality advantage. Two huge factors when it comes down to it. That's why we win all the big games. That's why coaching, we're much better prepared than a Buffalo, than a Baltimore. And will I be shocked if one of those teams potentially gets over the hump and beat us down the road, even like a team in Houston, the Houston Texans? No, because at some point in a playoff scenario where it's win or go home, at some point a team has to break through. At some point, a team has to get over the hump and beat the boogeyman. So I won't be shocked. But again, like I said, when it comes to game management and physicality, being ready in the trenches come January, we have such a huge advantage over the rest of the top teams in the AFC. In the NFC, it's completely different. It's a war zone with teams like Philly, with San Fran as well. When they're back at full strength, they are physical as hell and can wear you out. You don't see that with Baltimore or Buffalo. You really don't. Despite them having two of the top three QBs in the league, and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, they just can't win. They always fall short. So we'll have to see moving forward. Moving on to Philadelphia, I would just like to give an apology to the Philadelphia Eagles for over the past year. I basically disrespected them, especially Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, I basically said he was mediocre. I said Jalen Hurts can't elevate a team like the top QBs in the league. For Nick Sirianni, I thought he was way over his head. Last year, when they collapsed late in the season, I thought he should have been fired. I thought it was really stupid for them to keep him with this coaching staff, with this team. And for Howie Roseman, I critiqued his moves in the past year, saying that he's only a name value guy, only known for bringing in names that are well popular within Twitter Spaces, that were way popular, way better back a few years back. Placing those type of guys on the team now, those said guys having little to no impact on the Eagles roster. But this whole team, this whole season, especially in the playoffs in January, yeah, they proved me wrong. They really proved me wrong. Jalen Hurts, in the last two games of the year, in the biggest games of the year, he stepped up when they needed to the most. In the Super Bowl, when Spags was sending his disguised blitzes, he, other than the pick he threw in the red zone, he was unfazed. Made all the right reads, quickly threw the ball, got the ball off his hands. The deep ball accuracy was excellent. The deep shots to Jahan Dotson, to Devontae Smith for the game-ending touchdown. Clinical, very clinical performance. Very efficient as well. Kept the ball out of harm's way. Super efficient from Jalen Hurts. Nick Sirianni kept the troops under control. When Philly was up by 17, I still had faith that the Chiefs would come back and win, especially when we were down 10. And compared to the last time we met up with Philly in Arizona, Nick Sirianni wasn't phased. The Eagles weren't phased. They had to get the job done, and throughout those next few quarters, it clearly showed that as they were clearly dominant. And again, with Sirianni bringing in a much better, more veteran coaching staff with Kellen Moore at OC, with Vic Fangio at DC, the coaching vastly improved, and the Eagles were a more complete and more well-coached team. Howie Roseman, the linebacking core, I've had a huge critique about the Eagles linebacking core over the past few years. Bringing in Zach Bond, which a year prior when he was with the Saints, he was barely utilized. Fast forward a year later, he had a phenomenal year. He was a DPOY candidate. Oren Burks, too. He stepped up huge coming from San Francisco in the absence of Nakobe Dean. The secondary, that was a huge weakness with them last year. Got way better, drafting Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, two top corners I had on my draft board last year in the draft class. Getting Chauncey Gardner-Johnson as well, too. That was a nice pickup. It just a masterclass at roster building from Howie Roseman, and especially, last but not least, getting Saquon Barkley to add such a dynamic piece out of the backfield to bring in. I think he's the best running back in the entire league, but when he came in, a top 5 running back in the NFL at minimum, putting an elite running back alongside this stacked O-line, alongside elite wide receiver weapons in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. You add an elite running back, an explosive running back, an agile running back to that offense. It just made it a lot more dynamic, way more dynamic. So for Philly, salute to them. They won fair and square. They kicked their ass, and they deserve to be the champions. They were an elite team throughout the year. And they're going to be an elite team throughout these next 2-3 years in the NFC with most of their key guys under contract for the near future. So, again, salute to Philly. And hopefully we'll be back next time come February and possibly play against Philly again and come out on top. But as of right now, again, salute to them. They were great this whole year. All right. Next segment, we're going to stay with the NFL. We are going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and him leaving the New York Jets. Like I said earlier at the beginning, Rodgers got cut by the New York Jets. They will not have Aaron Rodgers in their plans for the 2025 season. And let me just say this when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. If you're a team this offseason that is very QB needy and is looking at getting Aaron Rodgers to start a quarterback for their franchise, don't do it. Don't do it. It would be completely moronic for them to make that decision. Is Aaron Rodgers still a solid QB in the NFL? Despite his talent level dropping off, post-Achilles tear, and with his age, yeah, he still is. He's well into being, at minimum, a top 20, top 15 QB in the league for sure. But again, when you add the fact that his leadership is very poor, drama is always around him whenever he goes. When Aaron Rodgers is on your team, you have to cater to him, like how the Jets catered to having Nathaniel Hackett as their OC, having Alan Lazard as one of their wide receiver options for Aaron Rodgers, when both of them and many other people within the Jets organization weren't good enough in their jobs. Aaron Rodgers is going to have a lot of say within your team. Right? So when we're talking about bringing in Aaron Rodgers to a team to potentially elevate said team next year, do you really want the headache? Do you really want all the drama being revolved around Aaron Rodgers when Aaron Rodgers is not the same Aaron Rodgers like he was in his prime with the Green Bay Packers? He can still play, for sure, despite him being 41 years old, 41 years old, but he's aging. His talent continues to wane. And again, the drama, the biggest factor in this, do you really want the headache? And to me, I wouldn't want to put that on my organization. I really don't. And I'll finish it off by saying this. The more and more Aaron Rodgers plays, the more and more his legacy continues to dwindle. When you look at past legendary quarterbacks being removed from their original team, going to a new franchise, they all succeeded. Brady won a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. Joe Montana went to an AFC Championship game with the Kansas City Chiefs. Peyton Manning went to 2 Super Bowls with the Denver Broncos, won one of them at the end of his career. With Aaron Rodgers, he suffered the most when it comes to that trajectory. So for A-Rod, we know he's minimum a top 5 talented quarterback in NFL history by far. We know how talented he is. He won the Super Bowl early in his career with the Packers. But when it comes down to it, with his legacy and him year after year proving to us that he's a very bad teammate, a very bad toxic teammate, no leadership skills, it just puts an even bigger damp on his legacy. So, as a football fan, do I want to see Aaron Rodgers continue to play football next season? And the answer is no. I don't want to see that. Because from the looks of it, his legacy is going to get even worse and worse. That's just my 2 cents on the whole situation. All right. Moving to the NBA, let's talk about the All-Star Weekend. This year being in San Francisco, obviously the main thing with All-Star Weekend is the change in the All-Star Game, having a tournament involving 4 teams, I believe. I'm not going to lie, right? This is probably the least excited I've ever been heading to All-Star Weekend. And for an NBA fan like me, that's just a damn shame. Because growing up, around this time, I was super excited for All-Star Weekend. I remember after Thursday when school was over, I remember rushing to the bus, heading back home, running to my home, and getting excited for All-Star Weekend on Friday. You know, with the Rising Stars Challenge, the Subly All-Star Game, Saturday, All-Star Saturday night, dunk contest, 3-point shootout, and Sunday, the All-Star Game. I thought it was exciting. It was fun. But as the years have gone by, especially in the last couple of years, the entertainment factor with All-Star Weekend has gone to complete crap. It is what it is. The excitement is not there anymore. And with the All-Star Game, you know, when it first came out that they were switching from a regular game to a tournament, I was annoyed because that's just completely unusual. But at the same time, I understand what Silver, his whole thought process was. He needed to bring something fresh. He needed to try something new. Because over the past couple seasons, these All-Star games have been the worst in NBA history. The players don't care. Little effort, straight layup and dunk lines and open 3-point shots. It feels like shoot around. And if an average fan like me, that is complete trash to watch. It's not fun at all. So for these players, yes, they're going to complain about the new format. But when it comes down to it, you have to try. An all-star game being great matters on the effort from the players, if they care about it or not. And for Silver, you left them to no choice. You had to make something. Like, having all-star games go up to 160, 170 points per each team, that's completely on the effort of the players. They've switched it to a draft between the two most popular players for some years. They switched it back to like the ELO ranking in the fourth quarter. They switched it back to East versus West. All of these haven't worked because of the effort from the players. So again, for these players, the effort matters a lot. You have to try. You have to compete. You have to show off for the fans, man. You really do. And for this idea that I have to improve All-Star Weekend, they need to have a 1v1 tournament. It needs to be implemented. I know the player's ego is not going to allow it, but when you compare to Unrivaled, which if you don't know about Unrivaled, it features the best players from the WNBA, and it's an off-season league that's been put in this season to give the players an option to not play overseas and get good money as well playing basketball. And what they've been doing over the past week was have a 1v1 tournament where the winner gets a $250K prize if they win the whole thing. And I've catched up on some of the games over the past week, and it's been very entertaining to watch. And if you haven't, please check that out. With Friday, I believe, tomorrow, they're gonna start the quarterfinals and finish that out throughout the rest of the day. So if you have time on a Friday night, please watch it. With that being said, when it comes to Unrivaled and a 1v1 tournament, it's fun. You have the top basketball players going at it for a huge prize. Exciting 1v1 play, going at it, just straight skilled basketball. Very fun basketball to watch. And for the NBA, I'm just like, why can't they do this? Who cares if you're going to get clowned on if you don't play well? You got to put the ego aside and let the competitiveness play. Don't y'all want to compete? Don't y'all want to perform? That would be a great way to get fan interest back, to have it pumping through the All-Star weekend. That'd be a phenomenal event. It has to be done. Have it be the 12 best players, the 12 best players you can find, or whatever number, and have a $1 million prize for the winner. It's so simple. But I guess it's not going to be, man. It's just not going to be, unfortunately. Yeah. Always got to stay hydrated, for sure. All right. Last segment for this episode, we are going to stay in the NBA, and we are going to talk 3 teams who need to panic the most heading to the All-Star break. And it's pretty much self-explanatory. I'm gonna read off three teams, in my opinion, who have the most to fear. And yeah, let's start off with Team One being the Phoenix Suns out of the West. And currently for the Suns, they are 26 and 28. They are the 11th seed in the Western Conference, one game behind the Golden State Warriors for the last playing spot. And for the Suns, when you compare this team, when they had Frank Vogel at head coach, compared to this year with Coach Bud, it is relatively the same team, if not worse. Especially defensively. The Suns are a very, very poor defensive team this year. I believe that they're bottom 10 in defensive rating throughout the entire league. And offensively, you bring in Coach Budenholzer to improve the offensive schematics, to bring in more creativity with your play calls, with your sets. And when you look at it, when you look at the Suns play, it's relatively the same ball-stopping, ISO ball-heavy team, non-3-point shooting team we've seen compared to last year. It's just KD and Book save us. It's that ISO-centric ball. You know, Durant and Booker, please save us, make your jump shots. And if they're having an off night or they're completely covered, they're getting attention from doubles and triple teams, we swing the ball to our open shooters, and we hope they can hit shots. But in the modern NBA, that's not a winning formula. This isocentric style of basketball, when you shoot a lot of heavy long twos, a lot of mid-range jumpers, you can't win that way. And for Phoenix, schematically, they're a poor team. Offensively, well, throughout the entire roster is very mediocre. The big depth is a huge problem. They got Nick Richards from the Charlotte Hornets. He hasn't really made an impact yet. It's been so bad, their big depth, that they've had to play Bol. And Bol has had a valiant effort starting for the Suns team over the past couple games, getting a ton of playing time in, which I respect that from Bol. The bigs are still a problem and are going to be a problem come playoff time, even if they do make the playoffs from the play-in somehow. It's a very limited defensive team with not a lot of pieces to move around, especially with the Bradley Beal contract, him still having his no-trade clause being put in place. So for Phoenix down the line, especially with Brad Beal going to make $54 million next season with the no-trade clause, I just don't see there being any way where this team can be significantly improved. They're stuck in limbo. They're stuck in mediocrity. It's not good at all. And it just goes back to the move they made to get Kevin Durant in the 2022-2023 season. At the trade deadline, they made the huge risk. They traded Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges along multiple firsts to get in Kevin Durant. And because of that, although on paper, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant together on the same team, Chris Paul as the point, they might be making some noise. But no, they were a much worse team, knocked out of the first or second round by the Nuggets. The second round by the Nuggets. And ultimately, we have seen them try to paper in the cracks more and more, but we're seeing more cracks show up out of their dam, and eventually the dam is going to break because of poor roster mismanagement and just a lack of resources being able to get in new and fresh talent. It's an absolute problem out of Phoenix, man. And unless they potentially trade KD in the offseason, which they're almost going to trade KD to the Warriors this trade deadline, but KD didn't want to go to the Warriors. it's just a mess. It's an absolute mess from Phoenix, man. And for James Jones and the rest of this front office, they're going to have an absolute mountain to climb to build his team back to being a contender, for sure. Moving on to the next team, we're going to go to the East, and I will talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. So as of right now, they are 20-34, 14 games out of 500. And what it looks, excuse me, and for the Suns, I said Suns, for the Sixers, they're very injury prone. Joel Embiid has missed the majority of the year. Paul George has been in and out of the lineup. Max Reese suffered his own injuries. Jared McCain, he was very promising. He was about to win Rookie of the Year at his trajectory. Goes out for the rest of the season with the meniscus tear. For Philly, the chemistry is not there. Again, very injury prone between their top players. And when we look at their roster in general, it lacks athleticism. It lacks attacking the rim. Players that can consistently attack the paint. It lacks overall youth. They got a lot of very old players and aging talent as well. And for the Sixers team, them putting a ton of money into their top two players, and Joel Embiid and Paul George, when they both can't stay healthy. For the Sixers, even if they do make the play-in, do you really want to do that when your pick for this year, your first-round pick, is top 6 protected? If it falls outside the top 6, the Thunder are going to get it. And so for Philly, why not just tank the year, shut down Joel Embiid, make him get surgery for his knee, and just run it back next year? But it seems easy to do. But also, you have Daryl Morey as a GM, who's on the hot seat, and Nick Nurse, who is an experienced head coach who won a chip with Toronto in his first year. So the smart idea should be to tank the rest of the season and rest your guys, running back with their first-round pick, get a very talented player, improve your youth, improve your overall athleticism, and just run it back next season. But with the state of the whole organization, with their head coach and GM needing to win games, they can't do that. And that just puts them at a tricky situation moving forward. And let me just talk about Paul George before we move on. He has been absolutely atrocious. Easily one of the worst players in the entire league. Came in as a Tobias Harris replacement. Thought they upgraded. But when you look at it, you compare PG to Tobias Harris. What Tobias Harris has been doing in Detroit this year, it hasn't been great. But with his contract especially, I'd easily take Tobias Harris over Paul George right now. Easily. And that's easy to say in hindsight, but it just speaks volumes on how bad of a player Paul George has been throughout this entire year. And when he came to Philly, I had my concerns with him being able to create his own shot, with him being able to attack the rim, which was a huge weakness and a declining factor with the Clippers last year, and we saw him struggle with that, especially in the first round series against the Mavericks. You head into the 2024 season, and it's been a whole lot worse. It has been way worse. He is an absolute shell of himself. This has easily been his worst year of his career. Easily. When you factor in expectations as well. Being a future Hall of Famer, being an established all-star caliber player in this league, he has completely dropped off a cliff. And you know, to give an example, last game versus the Nets, he was atrocious. He had 2 points in that game at one point, heading into the later second half. That's unacceptable for a guy who's getting paid damn near, well, over $50 million a year. That's just nasty. That is super, super nasty. And for Daryl Morey, once again, when you have two non-reliable players, Joel Embiid and Paul George, what can you do to help improve the roster beyond those two players? And we know for a fact no other team is going to want those two players because of how much money they're making and because they can't stay healthy to save their lives. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with those players and with the entire team because it's not looking good. For Philly, do you really want to go into the play-in, potentially be Atlanta or Chicago and take the 8 seed just to get your ass kicked by Cleveland? That wouldn't be a successful season. I'm sorry, it wouldn't. Just completely mediocre. Okay, the last team we are going to talk about is no other than the Dallas Mavericks. And with the Mavs, it is a complete mess. Their big depth has been completely depleted due to injuries. Derek Lively's out long term. Daniel Gafford is recently out for a couple weeks. And AD, most importantly, after his first game as a Dallas Maverick, he gets hurt in the third quarter versus Houston Rockets, goes out of the game, and is going to be out indefinitely. We don't know his timetable yet. It's I've said this before in previous episodes, but I feel so bad for Mavs fans. I really do. And it's even worse when you have Mavs fans at home games getting kicked out because they're chanting fire Nico. They want Nico Harrison, their GM, gone, which is completely understandable too, given that he made arguably the worst trade in NBA history, sports history, I might add, trading away a superstar in Luka Doncic, a 25-year-old superstar, for Anthony Davis, who's in his early 30s, where, again, Anthony Davis is a very talented player. But for AD, you have to worry about his injury history. And, shoot, it was very sooner than later with that scenario, but he got hurt, and he's going to be out long term when you have a Mavericks team without really a second consistent shot creator alongside Kyrie Irving, and no big depth. No big depth. None. They were starting Olivier Maxim Prosper at the 5 last night versus the Warriors. That's how bad they're in right now with all these injuries. And again, for the Mavs, you trade Luka Doncic away, you bring in AD gets hurt immediately, and now what? Your win now window is right now. It should be now. And with said window, it has completely been shortened to 2 or 3 seasons. And already, you're seeing AD be out long term. So what now? It's a complete mess. This team was in the finals a year ago. They were in 2 Western Conference finals with Luka Doncic as their best player. And now he's gone. We have a much older roster right now with a depleted team, a whole organization in limbo. The fans hate the organization. They hate the owner. They hate the GM. The GM doesn't want to show his face at the arena. The owner has sneak dissed Luka in press conferences, mentioning high work level players like Kobe, like Shaq, even though Shaq he's well known for being a player that didn't care about his body throughout his career. Just overall sneak dissing Luka, disrespecting him too. Your superstar player that took you to the finals the year prior, and as of right now, you're in complete limbo. You're in complete disarray, just because your GM didn't like the best player on the team in Doncic and wanted him gone for some reason that I don't know. That I really don't know. It just boggles my mind still to this day. And it is gonna boggle my mind for the next few years now. Until I stop watching the sport. It's insane, man. What do you do? There might be, bro. There is a real possibility that AD misses the rest of the year because of this injury. And they're being so quiet about how much time he has to be out for too as well. So to me, it just makes it even worse, knowing that you're gonna keep a situation in check without telling the public, when it might be a possibility where you know he's not gonna be back for the season, and you're just trying to keep the hopes up of your remaining fans who haven't left you already. It just sucks, man. Like, the pan meter is broke in Dallas. It's broke. It's completely broke because it's so high. It's just way too high right now, man. Complete disarray. But that's going to be it for me. If you guys are still here, thank you so much for watching this video. It was very fun and excited to record this episode. If you haven't already, drop a like and a comment down in the comment section down below. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube and follow our other social media platforms, Instagram and TikTok, both with the handle @LumpsFromTheBase. And yeah, man, that's going to be it for me. Hope you have a very good day. Later, y'all.